Hello everyone. Moon Knight Episode 1 has just been released, and I've got to say, I have some questions. So in this video, I'm hoping that either some of you can answer them, or eventually we'll find out some of the answers along the way together. First off, why is Steven all of a sudden in control? It makes sense that since Mark was a mercenary and is the Moon Knight persona, that he comes out mostly when there's violence. So why is Steven all of a sudden coming out at some of the worst times and more frequently? Because both Mark and Khonshu seem pretty annoyed with the amount of times that he's reoccurring as if it's not normal. And so much to where Steven is finally catching on to what's really going on. So what has changed that has made Steven become more aware and has made his personality come out more frequently? This leads me into another question. Because of this, who is the dominant personality anymore? Because it seems like Mark is the original, but is Steven coming out more than him now? Does that make him the more dominant personality? It's really hard to tell with all of the time jumps because we see days go by without knowing what's even happened. And during that time, it may not have even been Mark. It may have been the Mr. Knight persona that we have yet to see. Because we don't know if that is exactly Mark yet. Which leads me into another question. Could that have been Scotty? The security guard that Steven talks to always calls him Scotty. So sure, that could simply be just because he doesn't care and he's always watching Otter videos. But what if that's something more? What if that is our tease to the Mr. Knight persona? What if his name is Scotty? In my last breakdown video, I talked about how the accent changes is a little weird that no one's noticing. Especially with the girl that Steven almost had a date with at the steakhouse. So if Mark has an American accent, why didn't she notice when she was talking to Steven that he had an English accent all of a sudden? Unless it was not Mark who asked her out at all. It was Mr. Knight. And maybe his persona also has an English accent. And so if that is the case, what if he also goes to the same day job and has talked to the security guard and has told him that he goes by Scotty? So, is Scotty the Mr. Knight persona or another persona? Or was it simply just a one-off gag? So whose castle did Steven wake up at with the dislocated jaw? Is that where Arthur lives and Mark went there to steal the scarab back? Because we didn't get much confirmation on why he was there or what place that was. So hopefully we see that in the next episode. I'm sure we will. Because that just seems like a big thing to kind of just literally run away from. And talking about Arthur Harrow, I would like to know why exactly he puts the glass in his shoes. Me and my girlfriend theorized that it could be a sin that he's trying to atone for from his past for the goddess Amit. Or is it his way of showing her that he would just do anything for her as her avatar? Because that's a pretty big thing to just do out of nowhere, so... And then circling back to Steven and Mark. Why can't Steven talk to Mark when Mark's in charge, but he can talk to Steven when Steven's in control? Is this because Mark's the host? Or is it just because Steven isn't fully aware that he even can? And if they can talk to each other at the same time, why hasn't Mark said anything sooner? I mean, that would be pretty jarring, and I guess it would just be on a need-to-know basis. I assume he thought he could keep it up for a while, but I feel like it was inevitable that they were going to have to talk. Especially if Mark can see what Steven's up to. Was he just letting him torture himself? Just letting him feel like he was crazy? And on that same note, does Steven ever actually get to talk to his mom? Or could it be, say, Mark sending him these postcards in order to make him feel like nothing in his life is too strange and to keep him feeling normal and so he doesn't poke around? Because we don't really see or hear the mom talk back any. So was Mark or Mr. Knight really just puppeting Steven around instead of telling him the truth? Just letting him drive himself crazy? And near the end of the episode, Arthur reveals that some of the other gods have betrayed Amit, and even her own previous avatar. And so I'm clearly wondering which of the 9 gods could have betrayed her, and who was her previous avatar. I'm sure that we will see these other gods. I'm not so sure about this avatar. If we do, I wonder how big of a reveal it could be. If it's someone that we've already known, or was it just a little further emphasis on how no one agrees with what she's doing? Maybe one of the biggest questions yet, since Steven doesn't know what's going on half the time, or what's real, could he be an unreliable narrator? He's often reminding us that he doesn't know the difference between his dreams and being awake. And in some of the trailers, we potentially see what could be Steven in a psychiatric hospital. So, could things really just be in his head? Sure, some of these things have some real aspects to them, but could his mind be more fractured than we know so far from the whole becoming Moon Knight thing? If this is the case, someone could have potentially seen one of his outbursts, and that's why he ends up in the hospital. Even at the beginning of the episode, he questions whether he's dead or not with the little girl. She brings up the fields of reed, and he responds like, well, obviously I'm not dead, am I? Which could also explain why Mark would have chosen Khonshu's terms to become his avatar. Because if he already died and realized he didn't like where he was going, it makes more sense on why he would agree to all of his terms and be resurrected as the Moon Knight. But if this is the case and Steven really is an unreliable narrator, things like, say, Gus, for example, was it just in his head that he had one fin originally? Like, has Gus always had 2 fins? Or is Steven's mind just a little more fractured than we originally thought? Which could also be a result from being more puppeted by Mark. Those were just some of the biggest questions I had after episode 1. So if you have any ideas or answers to any of these things, let me know down in the comments below, because I'd love to hear them. And hopefully we'll figure all the answers out soon. And that's that. See ya.